Good morning and welcome to the Morning Scoop for Tuesday, December 15th. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Orr. The Big Ten Championship game against Northwestern is in 4 days. The College Football Playoff Selection Show is in 5 days. The game against Michigan in 347 days. It's going to be a busy week, but before we get to all that stuff, early signing day is tomorrow. That's what we're going to be talking about this morning. My guest is Buckeye Scoop recruiting analyst Alex Gleitman. Alex, this has obviously not been the recruiting cycle that anyone really expected this time last year, but it seems like Ohio State has done probably as good a job as any program in the nation in putting its class together during this really strange year.
Yeah, it's been crazy. No official visits, no live in-person evaluations, no camps during the summer. And the way Ohio State kind of put together this class, it was crazy. I mean, they had a pretty good base before things shut down. Then they had a flurry of commitments when things shut down. And then it was kind of slow for a while. They picked up a few along the way. There was some nice activity in the summer, and then things have kind of cooled down since until Emeka Egbuka committed on Friday. And it's I think good, probably bad for our business, but good for Ohio State. And good for I would say state of mind of me, Mark, and Bill. But it's going to be a relatively quiet early signing day for Ohio State. They have 21 commits. Punter Jesse Merkel's already signed. The other 20 are expected to sign on Wednesday. You could read more about that in my A deck that I posted last night. And there are also 14 at least 14, maybe 15 early enrollees. So as far as Ohio State goes, I mean, crazy year, weird year, but relatively quiet early signing day, which I think Mark Pantoni and Ryan Day are probably breathing a little sigh of relief about, with everything else they've had to deal with this year.
Yeah, when you're at the top of the recruiting rankings or, first or second, and it's a drama-free signing day, that's not a bad thing. You wouldn't mind a little drama if you're a little lower, perhaps, but if nothing changes and you're right near the top, that's probably okay. You mentioned the 20 guys who are coming in. I mean, a lot of those guys right now are probably just mostly names to most fans. They might know a name and a position and maybe where the guy's from, but not a whole lot more than that in terms of projection, specific place, which wide receiver spot will each of these guys fit in, each of the receiver prospects, for example. So we just wanted to get people a little bit better idea what the Buckeyes are actually going to be adding this week. So I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. You can give me your thoughts on which guy in the class do you think best fits these descriptions. So what was the biggest surprise in this cycle, good or bad, for Ohio State?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I hate to go bad. But JC Latham, that one was, I don't want to say in the bag, but it was pretty close. Ohio State was in a good spot. I think that was a case where the shutdown actually hurt the Buckeyes the most. There were some things that I'll detail at a later time that went on when JC Latham left IMG Academy, went home actually to live with his mother in Chicago versus his dad in Wisconsin. I think that series of events ended up leading him to Alabama instead of to Ohio State, where many, including myself, had him pegged for quite some time. So as far as biggest surprise, unfortunately, in a bad way, I'll go with JC Latham to Alabama. And, if you want me to give you a good one, I'll go with TreVeyon Henderson to Ohio State, despite never having visited. I don't know. I know Ohio State was in it for sure, but to get a kid of that stature without having a visit is pretty incredible. So I'll give you that one as a good surprise.
And JC Latham, even as the negative surprise, he is the number 2 overall player in the 247 composite right now. The number 3 player in the 247 composite, Jack Sawyer, defensive end. He's signing with Ohio State on Wednesday. Number 4, JT Tuimoloau. He is maybe going to be signing with Ohio State. That's going to be more of a February or later decision. But those are anytime you're in on 3 of the top 4 guys in the country and definitely getting one and maybe getting a second, like that's still a pretty good year. So that takes care of the surprise. Who is the first guy who is likely to be an impact player for the Buckeyes on either side of the ball? And I'm going to not let you cheat. You cannot pick Jesse Merkel, the punter. So who on offense or defense is most likely to be the first guy to be an impact player for them?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer on defense. It's Jack Sawyer. Some people call him the third Bosa. He's like those guys. He is game ready, physically, mentally, fundamentally. He could come in at a position of need, in my opinion, defensive end, where Ohio State will lose Jonathan Cooper, fifth-year guy, captain, kind of heart and soul of the defense, one could argue. And I think Jack Sawyer is going to come in and provide that Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa type of impact as a freshman. Do I expect him to start from day one? No. Do I expect him to be in a regular in the rotation and be an immediate impact guy? Absolutely. On offense, I know a lot of people want to say one of the running backs, TreVeyon Henderson or Evan Pryor. I'm actually going to go with Emeka Egbuka. Ohio State's going to lose Chris Olave. They get Garrett Wilson back. They'll have Jameson Williams back. They'll have the three freshmen from this year. But I think Emeka Egbuka is a guy who's going to come in, immediately contribute on special teams, and also going to be in that wide receiver rotation from day one.
And just to set expectations, I know Joey Bosa had 7.5 sacks as a true freshman. Chase Young and Zach Harrison both had 3.5 sacks. And if you get 3.5 sacks as a freshman, that sets you up as you're on a pretty good trajectory. I'm guessing you're not necessarily thinking Jack Sawyer like in the 7.5 sack range, but just sort of in the doing enough that you're like, oh yeah, he's on track to do big things.
Yeah, I think he's a guy who, when he's in the game, you'll see him disrupt, whether it's, pushing guys back and getting pressure on the passer or helping to stuff the run, whatever it may be. I just think he's a guy you're going to notice when he's in the game. How many sacks he gets, I don't know. Let's call it, probably closer to that 3.5 number that Zach Harrison and Chase Young had. But I think he's a guy who, when he's, especially with how much rotation Larry Johnson does with those guys too. But I think when he's in the game, you're going to say, yeah, this kid's going to be good.
Yeah, that's if he's at 3.5 sacks in 2021, that puts you very much on track for a 10, 12, more than that sack season in 2022, 2023, at some point in the future. So, all right, who is going to be the guy, maybe a lower ranked guy in the class who could be a difference maker, like the surprise breakout guy from this class? Who do you see being that guy?
Yeah, I don't feel like he's a surprise because everyone brings his name up every time we talk about something like this. But Jansen Dunn is a kid who I absolutely love for that one high safety position at Ohio State, defensive back out of Bowling Green, Kentucky. I think on Rivals, he's a 3-star. On 24/7, I'm not sure. He might be a 4-star, but he is definitely it's crazy because he's not low ranked, but one of the lower ranked guys in this class. That's just how good the class is. I think he's an exceptional player. He's a perfect fit for that one high safety spot. If he had to play corner, he could. He's super athletic. He could flip the hips. I love the kid. I think he's, I think he's got to learn a little bit, but I do think in time you're going to look back and be like, this kid probably should have been a top 100 type of kid.
All right, and this may be a little bit too much overlap with the earlier question about kind of immediate impact guys, but who is in this class most likely to be an All-American, or maybe outside of, say, TreVeyon Henderson and Jack Sawyer, who in this class is most likely to be an All-American?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I could go back to Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver. I think he's a future first-round talent. But I'll give you two others, one on offense, one on defense. On offense, I'll go with Donovan Jackson, offensive lineman from Texas. I think he's going to play guard at Ohio State. Probably has the ability to play right tackle if you needed him to. I think he's a really good player. I think he's going to be, a multi-year starter, potential captain type at Ohio State. And I think he has that ability to be an All-American. I think the other guy I'm looking at is cornerback Jordan Hancock, former Clemson commit that Ohio State got to flip a few months back. I think he's one of those guys that, you say, yep, he's that next cornerback for Ohio State that's going to be a first-round pick. Maybe Sevyn Banks or Cam Brown ahead of him. Who knows? But I think Jordan Hancock is kind of on that track to be, a first-round pick type of player, an All-American cornerback at Ohio State.
Now, this may be a very smooth transition from talking about a cornerback like Jordan Hancock, but what was the biggest position of need in this cycle for the Buckeyes, and how did they address it?
It's, you watch the team play this year, and even before that, you said defensive back. They had to replenish the room. They went out and they got at least 5 guys, maybe 6 if Jalen Johnson's a defensive back or not. But they definitely reloaded that room. Kerry Coombs came in, did an exceptional job. this year, especially getting, true cornerbacks, Jordan Hancock, Denzel Burke, Andre Turntine could probably play either cornerback or safety. Ja'Kalen Johnson's a true cornerback. So, I think with then Jansen Dunn and then maybe Jalen Johnson, you have a complete defensive back room there. And that was absolutely a big need that they addressed. I also thought offensive line and defensive end, specifically offensive tackle and defensive end, were two positions that they really needed in this class. And I don't feel like they adequately addressed those needs. Obviously, Jack Sawyer, you can probably argue that he just covers off anyone else you get on top of him as gravy. But I thought they needed another kind of speed rusher type, to kind of add to him. And they didn't get that. And then on the offensive side of the ball, Zen Michalsi is, he could be good. He's got a really high ceiling, but his floor is low too. So, not getting a surefire type guy like JC Latham, I thought was a miss.
Yeah, and this may be a little bit of overlap, but what work is still left to be done? Like, who are they still chasing for this class that may be more of a February signing or potentially later than February, according in one case?
Yeah, I don't think either of the positions I just mentioned are probably still. I think they'll stand pat with what they have unless something opens up that they're not expecting. Maybe they go to the transfer wire for something like that. But I think the two guys you have to watch, and we'll see what happens tomorrow and the rest of the week as far as who does sign. Rajon Davis, though, from California, linebacker, currently committed to LSU. The expectation is he does not sign his letter of intent, and from what I'm hearing, it's Ohio State or USC, actually, not LSU, that has the best chance of signing him come February. I know he's been to Ohio State before. He has I think twice. He's got a great relationship with Al Washington. He'd love to get back to Ohio State even though he can't see the coaches more than likely in January, kind of another look around, unofficial visit type of thing. And I think Ohio State has a real chance to land him. I think the other guy who we talked about is JT Tuimoloau. Defensive lineman from Washington. I think a lot of people have him listed as a strong side end. I actually think he'll kick inside and play defensive tackle at the next level. And, he's an elite athlete at his size, tremendous prospect. He's a guy who could come in and make an immediate impact as well. And, you mentioned the 24/7 composite or whatnot. He's the number 4 player in the country. I think if they're able to land him, that would be an incredible finish. If they could get him and Rajon Davis, I mean, they have a legitimate shot at the number 1 class in the country, currently sitting at number 2 across the board.
Yeah, this is already pretty almost certainly going to be the best ranked class in Ohio State history, unless something falls through. It looked like that was pretty likely to happen, and then it's a matter of can they pass Alabama or not. But if you're a point ahead of Alabama or a point behind Alabama, anytime you're getting discussed in the same sentence as Alabama in terms of recruiting, like that's probably not a bad thing. Earlier in the show, you mentioned 14, maybe 15 guys who are going to be in for spring. Who is someone who has an opportunity? Like who is the guy to really look for in the spring that you think might really pop and kind of make a stand out as someone who might get a chance to play during the fall?
It's a good question. I'll say I think people are going to be surprised by Kyle McCord. He's coming in early, and he's going to compete for the starting job. In his mind, he's coming here to win that starting job over CJ Stroud and Jack Miller. Do I think that that's going to happen? The odds are not in his favor, but I've seen Kyle McCord play a lot of football over the last 4 years. And I'm telling you, this kid is the real deal. I think he's going to turn a lot of heads. I think he's legitimately going to make the quarterback competition close. And I think even if he doesn't win it, he has a chance to be the number 2 guy in the fall. And no matter what, I think he's setting himself up that, he will be the starting quarterback at Ohio State at one point. I also think, Emeka Egbuka is kind of the guy on the fence. He could be the 15th guy. But I think that, one of the receivers, either him, Jaden Ballard, Marvin Harrison Jr., they're going to surprise some people, not surprise some people, but I think they're going to be, guys that people are talking about because they're all in the same mold of the guys that they brought in. They're ready to step on the field and contribute right away. And then I'll give you one more guy just because I love the way he goes about his business is Reed Carrico, linebacker from Ironton, Ohio. Just like your classic, like when I was in college, I don't know, to some people, I'm dating myself. To some people, I'm still young when I say this, but I was in college with AJ Hawk and Bobby Carpenter and Anthony Schlegel, and that's what Reed Carrico and James Laurinaitis, and that's what Reed Carrico reminds me of. Just that like hardworking, blue collar, like pure Ohio football player, Midwest football player that's gonna like go 110%, 4 to 6, A to B every single play. He's gonna live in the weight room. He's gonna do everything right. And he's just going to be like one of those guys that is just an animal on the field. And I think that is going to, you're going to see that from day one. I think the level of competition, like it's going to be like the level of competition he's at versus what he's going to see at Ohio State. There's going to be a little bit of a jump that needs to be made there. But I think once things start to click a little bit for him, I think it's a huge benefit he's coming in. I think by the time, hopefully we have a spring game this year. Hopefully, by the time that comes around, I think he's going to be a guy who, if fans are allowed at that game or allowed to watch on TV, they're going to be like, wow, this kid's flashing. Because I just, you talk about a kid who could be an All-American, a team captain, a multi-year starter at Ohio State. That's Reed Carrico to me.
Yeah, so Tony Gerderman and I recorded an episode of Buckeye Weekly on Monday where we talked a little bit about the Michigan game cancellation and all of that, but we also talked a lot about early signing day. And I said, Reed Carrico seems like he just, of all the guys in this class, like there's always someone who the next fall you're watching a kickoff and you're like, oh, wow, someone just got absolutely murdered into a million tiny pieces. Reed Carrico seems like he's the guy who's just going to blow someone up on kickoff coverage next year. There's always one guy in the class and it's a linebacker or a safety. And that is generally a pretty good indication that player is going to be an impact player on defense at some point in the future as well. So that takes care of 2021. Ohio State obviously is off to a great start for 2022 already. What is the biggest thing that they need to add to that class? Like what's, defensive backs were the big issue this year. Like what do they still need to add to 2022 in order to kind of solve whatever the biggest issue is for next year?
Give me a really good offensive line class. I think, they need to reload that room. You saw actually last week against Michigan State, some guys that I wasn't so sure would make it at Ohio State have really strong performances or that I thought wasn't ready. So maybe the depth's a little bit better than I thought it was. Let's, pump the brakes. It's Michigan State. Ohio State won by 40 points without, a lot of their players. But I still think that offensive line, especially at tackle, more so than guard, because it's always easier to move outside guys inside. I just think that is a big need. They have one offensive lineman, Tegra Tichbola, already committed. I tend to think he's an inside guy or a right tackle, but I just think that they need to go out and they need to sign a really good offensive line class. And I would say that is probably, the biggest need in this class. They got the linebackers. They got, I think, the defensive backs in this year's class. Again, the two things I felt they didn't get this year, rush end and offensive line, specifically tackle. I would say those are the areas they need to attack going into next year.
And you have your own podcast. You don't just come on this one. You host a podcast called Around the Oval. Your episode last week you had two different guests on, and they were both like, "Oh, that's a pretty good get." So let people know who was on last week's episode, and then also what they can expect a little later on this week on the show.
Yeah, for sure. So last week had Pete Thamel, national college football, college basketball writer for Yahoo Sports. Those of you who follow Ohio State know he's pretty clued in with Ohio State. He had a really good relationship with Urban Meyer, and that's carried over with Ryan Day. And I think he's pretty clued in with the Big Ten overall. So having him on to kind of talk about the Big Ten's decision to amend their rules and allow Ohio State into the Big Ten championship game. He had some pretty good insights. I also asked him about the transition from Urban Meyer to Ryan Day as a guy who's been pretty close to both staffs. And I thought he had some really good insights there. So definitely go to, our YouTube channel, Buckeye Scoop, and check that out. It's also on the site. You could find it by searching Around the Oval. And then I had Adam Rittenberg, senior college football writer for ESPN. And, Adam kind of got into, I don't want to say got into the business, but kind of made his name in the business covering the Big Ten for ESPN. Now he's in more of a national role, but he's still pretty clued into the Big Ten. He's actually, I think, the one who broke the news that the Big Ten was going to amend the rule. So spoke with him as well about that. Then also kind of previewed Ohio State's chances for the college football playoff. This was before Florida lost. So things have obviously gotten a little bit easier for Ohio State as far as the scenarios and whatnot. But Adam, I thought, provided some great insight into that. So definitely give that a listen. And then this week we're going to have on a special guest from the editor-in-chief and publisher Jay from the Northwestern site Lake the Posts, an independent site similar to Buckeye Scoop, to come on, break down Northwestern, everything you really want to know about the Wildcats heading into that game. We might have one other special guest, still TBD, so I'm not going to say too much on that. We'll definitely have this guest on at a later time if we don't get him this week. So be sure to tune in. We'll probably have this up with signing day kind of on Wednesday. Maybe we'll throw that up on Thursday.
And with signing day tomorrow, we got that. We got the Big Ten championship game on Saturday. I mean, let folks know what to expect. This is the first signing day at Buckeye Scoop. The first time we've kind of gotten the college football recruiting Voltron together. So let people know what they can expect at Buckeye Scoop on Wednesday.
Yeah, we're gonna try to do things a little bit different. I mean, every site does these like general capsules of the players and just the information, and like I'm sure maybe at some point we'll throw up whatever release Ohio State sends out on their 21 guys with all the information you need to know. We want to give you guys and girls the information that you want, that you need, that you want to read. I'm going to have an article very similar to what we did here on superlatives, covering a variety of topics. I'll also kind of do of like a what to watch next, kind of the storylines. Now that signing day's over, what's next for Ohio State, whether that be 2021 guys, 2022 guys, looking at the transfer portal, some things along those lines, who might be next to commit. I know Mark is going to have some really great stuff, kind of grading the offense, grading the defense. Bill is going to do a bank blog on this Ohio State class and share his thoughts. And so we're going to have a lot of good content. That's not your typical, like, so-and-so played football here for 4 years, was a 3-year captain and 2-year starter and had this many tackles, blah, blah, blah. I think we're going to go a little bit deeper into the analysis and really give you guys, some value as far as what our opinions are, what our observations are. I know I'll address it now because I know everyone's going to ask. Tom, I don't even know if you're familiar. I used to do a piece for Bucknuts. I brought it over to Rivals. I actually kind of copied and pasted it here when we started about behind the scenes of National Signing Day. Some of the stories we couldn't really tell you as things were going on just because of sensitivities and things like that. Just kind of give you a peek behind the curtain of what really happened and a number of players who ended up at Ohio State and some who didn't. And that I'm going to wait, just like I have since the early signing period came into effect. I'm going to wait to do that until February because there are still going to be some stories to be told that don't end until February with JT. Who knows? It might be later than that. But I also just want to make sure everyone signs so that, there's no issues, as far as guys who maybe haven't signed their letter of intent yet. So that's something to look forward to in February, but we're going to have a ton of great content for you guys this week on Buckeye Scoop as far as early signing period.
Yeah, and Tony Gerdeman and I will be talking to Ryan Day, Mark Pantoni on Wednesday, so we'll have a whole bunch of coverage on that as well, in addition to all the incredible stuff Alex just laid out. Like, man, I am excited. I'm already excited to start reading all that stuff. This is, I know I've said this before, I've covered the team for a number of years, and like as soon as I, started reading all you guys, it's like I'm learning a lot of stuff I didn't know, which that's if you have not covered the team professionally for a number of years, and that probably means you would learn maybe even more than I am learning about Ohio State and the program and the recruiting and how it all works and what's coming next. So if you were the type of person who is interested in learning a little bit about Ohio State football, friends, do I have good news for you? BuckeyeScoop.com has memberships available right now. You can sign up at BuckeyeScoop.com. Be a fantastic thing to ask for Christmas. Ask your mom, dad, wife, husband, kids, whatever. Mailman. Hopefully, maybe you have a real nice mailman. Your mailman will get you a Buckeye Scoop membership. And go ahead and sign up for an annual membership. And then you'll get, whenever Alex's recruiting stories that could not be told thing comes out, you'll already be a member. You'll be able to read it right along with me the first day it comes out. And then this time next year, when they ask you what you want for Christmas again, hey, just renew that membership at BuckeyeScoop.com. Seems like a pretty good deal to me. So, and make sure you check out Alex's Around the Oval podcast later this week, as well as all of our great podcasts. Just search Buckeye Scoop on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, like wherever you find podcasts, just search Buckeye Scoop. You will find all of those there. Thank you guys for listening. Have a great day. We will talk to you tomorrow.